Simon Bridges.
Speaker, next time call a powerful ballot, and indeed from the member opposite for Labour, and I agree with really much, probably almost all of what he said, that we do have a national problem. We should be ambitious about it, and he graphically, but I think necessarily gave us some powerful examples of the kind of abuse children in this country face and see and have perpetrated against them. I could tell the House when I was a prosecutor and did a large number of sexual cases like the ones the member opposite talked about. I remember cases of daughters being raped from prepubescence through to their late teens, and those rapes being enforced by regular beatings at the start. That it was tempting to think then, and I don't have the facts and the figures before me now, but that we had an epidemic in this country of abuse. And that is a national shame. As I say, accept that we should be ambitious about this, but I'd also pose another challenge, and that is that whilst law reform ideas, and I hope this doesn't sound like a cop-out because it's not meant to be, this Parliament should face up to the problem fair and square and do what it can about it. But I also think that it should be placed on record how deeply complex, how deep-run abuse can be in parts of our society, and that just as law change may be required, and we do some of that today, there's also very much a need for deep cultural and societal changes. And let me give an example that I thought of just sitting there. When I prosecuted these cases, and I'm talking about serious cases, one I can recall resulted in a 17-year imprisonment for rape charges. That's right up there with the longest sentences for rape in the country, 2 or 3 in that category actually, because it was rape over a period of years. Newspapers and media in this country simply weren't interested in covering those cases. They're too real, they're too graphic, they're too nasty, and maybe they actually say something we don't want to know about our society and what is happening in this country. And so I as I say, accept much of what my Labour colleagues said. This is an area of shame for our country, but I say as well, actually, not only is it law reform that's called for, but there's a wider societal issue that people other than politicians can lead and show leadership on, whether that is the media, whether it's organisations who already do show a leadership role, like Every Child Counts and the organisations under that. And I come to this bill, and I don't say it's going to solve all the problems that we have in this area, but certainly it is a quality piece of legislation. It amends a number of acts, the Domestic Violence Act, the Care of Children Act, and the Adoption Act. And it does that, I think, as it's in the purposes section, it says really to provide for the welfare of children, and the changes will make some difference. And when we're talking about welfare of children and families, can I just pause to really give a thought to the trauma that children and families are facing with the Christchurch earthquake? I think probably the biggest eye-opener to me of that earthquake has been really that toll on children and family and the trauma that comes through lack of sleep because of the aftershocks, the fear that children face. We heard from Amy Adams yesterday about that, and how that actually then leads on to, of course, parents being tired, emotional, and traumatised themselves. And we know, I think it was in the papers earlier this week, that as a result of this earthquake, and I in no way excuse this, but the pressures of it have led to much higher levels of domestic violence in Christchurch. And as I say, that's in no way excusable, but it perhaps shows us gives us some understanding of the pressures that do come in families that lead to understandable but not right outbreaks. And I talked, and I've really, in response to Sir William Seo's speech, gone off some of the things I wanted to say in this speech. But I just want to finish with this effectively unrelated topic, and that's the changes to the Adoption Act. And I think I spoke about them in an earlier reading, I know I did, but I've felt for some time that child trafficking is a problem on the rise in the world we live in. It's a very serious and growing problem, and we are, again, I say, not doing everything that could be done about that in this bill, but we are making some changes that bring our laws in this country into greater rationalisation with other countries, and that's a good thing. And I suppose this may seem like a strange or random thought, but I thought of the Prime Minister's comments some small time ago about boat people and the inevitability of boat people in this country and reaching these shores as a global trend towards boat refugees and the like, and the inevitability of that at some point coming to our country. And I say actually, we could say very much the same thing about child trafficking that we're seeing around the world in Africa and poor countries and poor continents where children are being and parents are being tricked, and children tricked into child slavery, into sexual slavery, into all sorts of hideous forms of bondage, that we could see that in this country. We shouldn't be complacent about it. And in a funny sort of way, perhaps off on another tangent, George Hawkins' bill, while it may have some practical issues to be sorted through at Select Committee, lots of them, I accept that, and I haven't decided how I'll vote finally, actually in a funny sort of way relates to this. We can't be complacent with children and trafficking and these sort of issues in this country, and we, as I say, in this bill don't solve everything, but at least put some steps forward and make some good changes that I hope will enhance child welfare in this nation.
To your Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker.